There we go. There's a really misunderstood part of cornering. I've seen this on a lot of well-meaning YouTube videos when even the coach, I think either he's just not clear or they don't fully understand how a bike, a two-wheeled vehicle turns. And this is when it's carrying some speed. In a tight switchback, totally different technique. But I'm talking about when you're going fast enough that you're worried about the bike sliding out. You know, when you're descending and you're going into a corner. Or maybe you're bummed that your buddy can do that corner faster than you can and you want to increase your speed. How we initiate that turn is we do a thing in motorcycling, they call it counter steering. I prefer the term counter pressure, and I'll tell you why I like the term counter pressure in a second. But what we actually do is we push our inside grip, which in this case is a left-hand turn. I'm going to push my inside grip, my left grip. I'm going to literally push it forward, away from my body. And if you notice, that does counter steer the bike. And the immediate reaction of counter steering that bike is the bike leans in the direction you've counter steered it. So it leans to the left, and then if you notice, and this is why I call it counter pressure, there's other forces acting on that front wheel. And first off, it'll never counter steer this much probably. But at the initiation, it probably counter steers about as much as I just showed you, whatever that is, 2 or 3 degrees. And then, as soon as the bike leans over, what the wheel wants to do is flop into the direction you're turning. But what we're doing is we're fighting that flop. If we let it flop, our bike's going to stand up, and we're either going to flip over or we're going to go straight again, but we're not going to continue our turn. So what we're doing is we're pushing in the counter direction to keep that wheel from flopping in. And that gives us the right lean angle, or it keeps it at the lean that, the harder I push, the more it's going to lean, and the tighter my turn's going to be. At any given speed, if I lean my bike, if I push a little harder than you, and I lean more than you, I'm going to turn a little bit tighter than you. And another interesting thing that this means is the faster I go into the same corner. If I've been through this corner 30 times at 10 miles an hour, and now I want to do it at 12 miles an hour, well, that's 20% faster. I'm going to need more lean angle. The lean that worked at 10 miles an hour is not going to work at 12. So I'm going to have to push a little bit harder and get the bike to lean more. And it also helps, and this is one of the toughest corners you'll ever encounter in mountain biking. It's called a decreasing radius turn. It's a turn that starts with a pretty wide radius, and the deeper you get into it, the tighter the turn becomes. I call those sucker corners, because no matter how good you are, the first time you go into that corner, you're like, woohoo! That corner looks awesome, and you just haul butt into that corner, and then as it gets tight, you're carrying too much speed for the tight part. So what you need to do in a decreasing radius turn is first figure out that it's decreasing radius. Then you're going to enter a little bit slower than it feels like you should be, because you need to enter it at the right speed for the slowest part of that corner, or the tightest part of that corner. And then you're going to change your lean angle in that corner. Where it starts to tighten up, you're going to actually push harder with that inside hand. And I don't mean pushing down. It's forward. It's away from you. I hear a lot of coaches saying pressure the bar. And you are pressuring the bar, but they just leave it at that. And this is pressuring the bar, pushing it down, but this is also pressuring the bar. We want to pressure it in a forward direction. And that's going to get the bike to lean over. So in a decreasing radius turn, at the beginning, where it's a pretty big radius, I'm going to gently push, and that's going to barely lean the bike over. And then as I get to the tighter part of that corner, I'm going to have to push harder and lean the bike more so I can finish that corner. And as we spoke about previously, there's a traction issue. The more my bike leans over, the more I need to make sure I stay on top of the bike, because if I lean with the bike, notice how my weight is below the bike now. So the tighter the corner requires more lean angle, the faster we're going requires more lean angle, and in all these situations, we need to stay above our bike, as I talked about previously. And that's how we initiate a turn, and how we maintain the radius. One of the most interesting things, and a question I get from my students is, well, how do I know how much to lean the bike, Gene? I understand what you said about the counter pressure gets the bike to lean, blah, blah, blah. But how do I know how much to lean? Well, it's actually pretty simple. Well, it's hard to do, but it's pretty simple. What you need to do is you look through the corner. In an ideal world, and it's not always ideal, like right now I'm in the trees, and sometimes in the trees you can't see as far ahead as you would like, but in an ideal world, we want to look past the exit of the corner down the straightaway where we want to go. Let's pretend from my thumb to the end of my finger is my corner. So if I'm right here and I'm looking there, I'll give myself the right lean angle to go there. But have you ever done this, and maybe you were looking there, you seem to do a perfect corner, but right at the last second, instead of going down the straightaway, you drifted wide. That's because you don't want to get here aiming that way. You want to get here aiming this way. So if you had looked just another 6 feet, say, down that straightaway, you would have finished that turn. So we need to look where we want to end up, which is usually 5 to 10 feet or 2 to 3 meters after the corner. And if we can't see that far, we're going to look as far as we can. And then as we get deeper into that corner, we're going to pick our eyes up and look even further. And this is great if you're a racer or just someone working on your own skills and it's one of your favorite trails at home. This is when you ought to have reference points. You should say, oh, at the beginning of that corner, I want to be looking to the big cactus. And then once I'm about a third of the way through the corner, I need to look past that cactus all the way to that big stump. If I'm looking at that big stump, I'm going to have the right lean angle to exit that corner. So that's how we initiate a turn and how we end up with the correct lean angle. It's really funny. One day I was working with Greg Minnaar, and there's this book been written, and it's got, if you're going, say, 20 miles an hour into a 30-foot radius corner, it tells you the exact lean angle that you need, which I think is hysterical. So, because I don't know about you, but I really have no idea how fast I'm going, and I really can't just, while riding my bike, look at a corner and say, oh, that's a 20-foot radius. Oh, that's a 30-foot radius. So I said to Greg, I said, Greg, what was the radius of that corner you just did? And he looked at me and he goes, what? And I go, what was the radius of the corner? And he goes, I have no idea. And I said, well, Greg, I go, what was your lean angle? And he goes, I have no idea, Gene. And I said, well, Greg, you did that corner nearly perfectly. How did you know what lean angle to have? And it was so awesome. Like a typical top pro who doesn't actually know what he's doing, but he said what he's doing. He goes, I don't know, Gene. I just looked to the exit of the corner and I went there. And so he did know, because that's what you do. You look at the exit, or again, hopefully a little bit past the exit, and you'll give yourself the lean angle to go there. So that is going to help you really start learning how to get that bike to lean and how to get the correct lean for the speed you're going in the corner. So on my website, there's an article called The Hierarchy of Skills. So it probably hasn't occurred to you, but there's some skills that if you were to master, you might become 30-40% better at mountain biking. There's other skills, or maybe pieces of a skill, say pieces of cornering, that if you master that piece, you might be 2% better at cornering, but another piece might make you 20% better at cornering. So when you're first starting out, what pieces do you want to work on? Well, probably the ones that are going to make you 20% better, not the ones that are going to make you 2% better. So what's going to make you way better at cornering are the things we've talked about. The pushing on the grip, the looking through the corner. The number one thing is looking through that corner, right? And then pushing on that grip and getting that bike to lean the right amount, and then staying on top of the bike so you have traction. Those three things are super important in cornering. Another piece is braking. We want to finish all of our braking to cut speed, right? There's two kinds of braking. There's braking to cut speed, braking to slow down, and there's braking so as I don't go any faster, and that's called dragging your brake. And you can drag a brake, the rear brake anyway, through a corner. That's not bad. I used to teach it was bad, and then Greg Minnaar said, well, dude, I do that a lot, so it might be a bad habit, but I do it. And that made me feel a lot better, because sometimes you slow down to the right speed for that corner, but the corner itself loses so much altitude that you know your speed's going to greatly accelerate through that corner. Those corners are a little scary to me, so I'll slow down with both brakes to the right speed for the entrance, and I'll let go of that front brake, but I'll gently keep the rear on and drag the brake through the corner. So the braking is another big piece in cornering. If you finish that braking to cut speed before the corner, your exit speed is going to go way up. There's an old expression in both motorcycle and car racing, and certainly in bicycle racing, and that is, sometimes you got to go slow to go fast. And cornering is where that is. If you enter that corner a half mile an hour too fast, and halfway through that corner you're like, uh-oh, I'm going too fast, and you hit that brake to slow down, you hit the brakes hard enough to slow down, that is going to, A, kill your exit speed, possibly make you crash, but it's definitely going to mess up your corner. So what we want to do is go in at the right speed, and we find that through experimenting.